You know that world-famous anime, Doraemon? Well, what if I told you it has a deep, hidden connection to ancient Buddhist wisdom? I know, it sounds kinda out there, but stick with me. We're about to dive into how this beloved kids show is secretly teaching a profound lesson from a 2,500-year-old scripture. It's a pretty wild connection, so let's get right into it.
So let me ask you this. If you had Doraemon right there with you, do you think you'd be happy forever? I mean, come on, an endless supply of gadgets from the future to fix literally any problem you have? It sounds amazing, right? But here's the thing. Would it really make you happy in the long run? The show itself pretty much screams no, and that's where our story really begins.
So let's talk about this paradox of failure. The whole secret is hidden in a pattern that happens in, like, almost every single episode of Doraemon. It's this super predictable cycle of failure that our main guy Nobita just can't seem to escape.
Okay, so here's the classic Doraemon formula, right? First, Nobita has some kind of problem. A bully, a bad grade, you know the drill. Step 2, he begs Doraemon, who pulls some amazing futuristic gadget out of his 4D pocket. For a minute there, Nobita feels like he's on top of the world, totally invincible. But then, and this is the crucial part, he gets completely hooked on the gadget. And what happens next? You guessed it, it all goes wrong, leading to some epic and usually pretty funny failure, every single time.
And look, this isn't just a funny cartoon formula, it's a full-on lesson. This pattern is so famous, so consistent, that it's basically become a part of Japanese culture. It's way more than just a story, it's a powerful, shared teaching about what happens when you rely too much on something else.
All right, so how does this lesson actually play out in real life? This is where it gets really cool. We're talking about a lesson learned right in the home. It's not just for Nobita, it's become a real teaching tool for parents and kids.
So picture this. A kid in Japan is watching an episode, and Nobita's big plan with the gadget totally blows up in his face. It's hilarious, right? But then their parent leans over and says something like, "See, if you only rely on tools, you'll end up failing just like Nobita." Boom. The cartoon just became a super effective teachable moment. It's an amazing way to show kids why it's so important to rely on yourself, not just some easy fix.
So we have this modern cartoon teaching a lesson that feels ancient. But where did this idea actually come from? Well, the source of this lesson is found way, way back. We're talking 2,500 years ago in India.
Yep, it's an echo of ancient wisdom. Turns out, that core lesson hiding in Doraemon, it's not new at all. It's basically a direct shout-out to a fundamental teaching from one of the oldest spiritual traditions on the planet.
And that wisdom comes from this book, the Dhammapada. Think of it as one of the greatest hits of Buddhist scriptures. It's a collection of the Buddha's most essential teachings, all focused on things like ethics, being mindful, and most importantly for our story, the incredible power of mastering your own mind.
And right here, in verse 160, we find the mic drop moment. Self is the master of self. Who else can be the master? That's it. That's the whole idea. The Buddha was teaching that the ultimate power, the ultimate responsibility for your life is inside you. Not in some outside force, not in another person, and definitely not in a magical gadget from a robot CAD. Nobita's endless cycle of failure, it's the perfect story to show us what happens when we forget that simple, powerful truth.
Okay, so how does a 2,500-year-old idea apply to us right now? Let's talk about the modern dilemma. Because, yeah, Nobita's problem is a gadget from the future, but our own dependencies, they work in pretty much the exact same way.
The parallel here is pretty shocking when you think about it. For Nobita, it's the gadgets from the 4D pocket. They stop him from trying on his own, and he fails. For us, our gadget could be the company we work for. We see it as this big, powerful tool that gives us security and an identity. But what happens when we rely on it too much? It can crush our own efforts, our own individuality. And instead of a funny cartoon failure, the result is real-life burnout and serious mental distress. It's the same pattern, just with higher stakes.
And isn't that just the biggest irony? In our modern world, this ancient lesson is so often forgotten. We literally have stories like Doraemon reminding us of it, but the pressures of daily life just make us forget. We're always looking for that external fix, we let our jobs define who we are, and bit by bit, we forget that we have any power of our own.
So this is the big question, right? How do we start reclaiming our own mastery? It all starts with applying this wisdom to our own lives, spotting our own dependencies and making a conscious choice to take back control, to find our own purpose.
Okay, let's wrap this all up. So, what have we learned?
Doraemon stories are basically modern-day fables about how dangerous it is to depend on outside things. And this isn't random. It perfectly mirrors that ancient Buddhist teaching about self-mastery from the Dhammapada. We saw how for us, the company or anything else can become that modern gadget we rely on way too much. The bottom line is this. Real, true fulfillment isn't going to come from anything outside of you. It only comes when you become the master of your own life.
So I'll leave you with this final thought, a modern take on that ancient question. Who is the master of your life? I mean, really think about it. What are your gadgets? What are you depending on? And when it all comes down to it, are you the one in charge?